What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Today I have a final, exciting installment in the Building with BECMI line of videos that I've been doing. This product is the one that brought me back to BECMI. You see, I had moved on to AD&D 2nd Edition with my group when a friend of mine brought this book home and showed it to me, and it sucked me right back in. This is the singular most complete official D&D book ever created. So without further ado, this is going to be Building with BECMI, Part 6, The Rules Cyclopedia. If you are enjoying the content, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, as that helps me to grow the channel and bring you more content like this in the future. If you are looking to have a deeper discussion on all manner of RPGs or just get some free downloads, check out the Books, Bricks, and Boards Discord server, link in the description. History of the Rules Cyclopedia. By the time that 1991 rolled around, we were 5 years removed from the release of the final BECMI box, with the Immortal set having been back in 1986. With many of the box sets getting harder to find, many gamers wondered if they would ever see another reprint, given that 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons was clearly the favored product for TSR. The other contributing factor to the concern was that with Gary Ousted and Lorraine Williams not being a game enthusiast, there were not a lot of the originals left to champion such a request. That is why it was very much to my surprise when my best friend called me to check out his latest purchase from Wargames West catalog, that being the Rules Cyclopedia. There it was, different than the 2nd edition games we'd become accustomed to, but yet familiar with its trappings of what we called basic D&D. The races class, the lower hit dice, the 1 to 36 level progression, the druids and paladins as options more so than classes. It was all there. But then I got the shock of my young gaming life. Starting on page 29, listed as an optional class, was the Mystic. Being a huge fan of Oriental Adventures, I was so excited to have a playable version available for my BECMI games. But as excited as I was for that revelation, it did not hold a candle to my excitement for the Weapon Mastery rules. While both of these were introduced in the Master set, having never owned it, they were new to me. This single tome had everything to play BECMI in one place, and in a very handsome presentation with some great new art and a slick layout that would make Gavin Norman proud. While it didn't cover the Immortals content, that would be remedied soon enough with the Wrath of the Immortals releasing a year later in 1992. This release allowed fans of the extensive Gazetteer line to continue enjoying those products for years to come. What's in the book? Behind the beautiful Jeff Easley dragon cover, gamers would find 304 pages covering the full range of rules presented in the basic, expert, companion, and master sets. Beyond that, there were some notable additions, including the general skills rules from the Gazetteer line. The book gave minimal word count to the task of teaching the game, openly establishing itself as a reference document versus a teaching tool. This is a key difference between the original BECMI boxes and the Rules Cyclopedia. Frank had methodically established a logical progression of introducing rules and concepts to allow tables time to digest one before moving on to the next. This was amazing for teaching the game, and that process has withstood the test of time, having recently used it to teach my own kids. Unfortunately, upon learning the full game from the boxes, DMs and players were left flipping through several books to find the information they needed at the table. By contrast, where the Rules Cyclopedia was short on examples and teaching, it excelled at providing a single reference document for all the rules through the Master set. To get an idea of the volume of the subjects covered, take a look through the General Index. massive. This book, after a brief explanation of role-playing, jumps right into character creation with everything a BECMI player would expect, including races, class, demi-human options. The first notable improvement, aside from covering all 36 levels, and for demi-humans all attack ranks, in one place, is the addition of a very understandable Mystic class. Whereas the Mystic as presented in the Masters set felt like an essay on class design, Alston compiled those notes and reformatted them like the other classes and left us with a very playable Mystic. Amazingly, he didn't change any mechanics other than opposition styles for monk-on-monk combat. He just made it more readable. What resulted is my favorite TSR monk style class. Good job, Aaron, and nice job on design to Frank. Rather than presenting spells with the classes as was done in the box sets, Alston placed them in the adjoining section in Chapter 3. In one place, he covers all the clerical, druid, and magic user spells compiled by type and level. Next, we get a generous equipment section spanning 13 pages and covering all your standard gear options, as well as transportation and siege warfare needs. Chapter 5 covers the optional weapon mastery and general skills rules. If you haven't watched Building with BECMI Part 4, the Masters rules, I got into some detail about why I love the weapon mastery rules there. The general skills are relatively new, having been introduced in several Gazetteer products at this point. They are very similar to the non-weapon proficiencies from AD&D, but without the set modifiers for each skill. Typically, just roll your relevant attribute or lower on a d20 and you are successful. These general skills cover a lot of ground, but I think I prefer just doing attribute checks myself. Your miles may vary. Chapter 6 has rules for all manner of movement, and Chapter 7 covers random encounters and how to create balanced encounters, effectively covering hex scrawls between the two chapters. Chapter 8 provides us with everything that we need to know about combat, including rules for unarmed aerial, naval, and even underwater combat. Considering this is about 80% of gameplay for most tables, covering it in 15 pages is fairly impressive. Chapter 9 gives us rules for the War Machine from the Companion set and the Siege Machine from the Masters set. While these rules seem to be unchanged, just having them together in one place is a significant improvement. As with a lot of the Rules Cyclopedia improvements, Alston had the page count to do a lot of the things that Frank likely wanted to do. Chapter 10 and 11 cover experience points and hirelings. These two sections are very brief and straightforward, as one might expect. Chapter 12 gets more page count with 9 pages to cover all things to do with the construction and maintaining of strongholds, as well as the management of dominions. Again, there doesn't seem to be a notable mechanical change here, but just having all of this information together is a vast improvement in usability. Chapter 13 takes all of the alphabetically arranged procedure entries from the various DM books and places them together in a very efficient 9 pages. Chapter 14 is the requisite bestiary containing monsters for all levels of play, with 67 pages giving us a total of 290 stat blocks if I counted correctly. No matter how you evaluate this, it's generously sized as a bestiary, all the more so when you consider it as only one chapter in the entire book. Chapter 15 covers immortality, and in this book uses only 2 pages to do so. It gives some basic details about how players can petition an immortal sponsor to attain immortality themselves, but interestingly, to close the chapter, it says when a character reaches immortality, they must retire from play. I find this interesting because only a year later, TSR would release Wrath of the Immortals, a set entirely based upon immortal level play. Some of the TSR designers talked about a 2-year design cycle very close to this time frame, so I'm curious what was happening behind the scenes here. Chapter 16 gives us 32 pages of treasure, including the rules for making all manner of magical items and researching spells. Artifacts are covered here too, but this time only get 1 page and a single sample. Still no official Holy Avenger, plenty of the build a weapon rules I like from the box sets though. Definitely enough stuff to give players the incentive to keep displacing monsters to take their stuff for years of play. Chapter 17 gives DMs some good advice on running campaigns with specific suggestions on designing custom settings and tailoring to the player's expectations. Chapter 18 covers the planes of existence and how things work different in different planes. Aaron does an admirable job of trying to fit the manual of the planes into 3 pages, but honestly, such a large subject can't be done correctly with so few resources devoted to it. I'd rather those pages be expanded or cut entirely and given to another subject. Chapter 19 is all about variant rules, and some of them were such common house rules as to once again create that Mandela effect. having believed they were core to the game. In particular, I remember the death save at 0 hit points always used at our table, but clearly that was just optional. There are also rules for demi-humans and mystics to raise beyond the level caps and non-lethal combat. The appendices is one area where the rule cyclopedia really adds to what was in the box sets. Appendix 1 has 22 pages of information on Mystara and the Hollow World, with great color maps and details on the various kingdoms, which at this point were well covered in the Gazetteer series. Appendix 2 provides conversion rules both to and from AD&D. Side note, it is interesting that they do not refer to AD&D as 2nd edition, but just AD&D. Since they were trying to prove a difference between the systems at the time, this is an odd omission. I'm not all that interested in making BECMI characters into AD&D characters, but the rules for running some AD&D character options are presented in the optional class sidebar. Discussion is had on running demi-humans of the basic 4 classes, paladins and druids at level 1, and even BECMI gnomes. Monster conversions are provided as well, giving a codified way of doing the conversions we were all doing along the way anyways. Appendix 3 gives some photocopy material with record sheets, hex paper, and the like. The character sheet in particular is a bit ugly. TSR had given us better at that point, but at least it is here. Appendix 4 has a list of the indices, including every spell alphabetically, a list of all the tables in the book, as well as all the checklists. And finally, a glorious general index, because that was a lot of material to cover. And that, my friends, is what was in the book. The good and the bad. First, the good. One tome to rule them all. This book has everything that a group needs to play all levels of play for any type of imaginable D&D campaign. You could even use these rules to play in your favorite Advanced Dungeons & Dragons settings, as I have. It has all your monsters, all your characters, all your treasure, and a fair amount of DM advice as well. Number 2, several affordable options, as well as an expensive one. As you saw, I printed out my PDF. That was what I did my flip through of. But there on the left is the softbound print-on-demand version of the book. On the right is an original copy from 1991. You can get the softbound version for $20 from DriveThruRPG. You can also get the PDF much less expensively. DriveThru also has a hardbound option, but I'm not a big fan of the print-on-demand hardbacks. I don't like the way that their bindings hold up, but that's just me. Now, on the right-hand side, picking up an original rule cyclopedia in good condition can be quite pricey. This one I got from Noble Knight Games, and while it was listed as near mint excellent condition when I got it just a few months ago, it has a busted spine and it has some major dings on the cover. So for $170, I was a little bit disappointed in the condition it came in. That said, you might be able to get a very good condition copy off of eBay much cheaper than that. But my point is, you've got many different options on obtaining one, and they don't all have to be pricey. Number 3, it adds clarity and precision. Aaron Alston really did for the BECMI boxes what Gavin Norman did for the original BX set with his old school essentials. Only Alston did it more than 20 years earlier. Now the bad. This is not a great learning product, and it says so right at the beginning. It's not meant to teach somebody that doesn't understand role-playing the game. This is probably why TSR started releasing various introductory products after the Rules Cyclopedia. That's not what it's intended to do, but that's just a forewarning. Number 2, there are no sample adventures. One of the great aspects of the earlier boxes of the BECMI line was that they had some really great adventures that helped guide a group through the process of having a campaign. Those are sadly gone here, as are many of the examples on how to do various aspects of play. Number 3, where are my jousting and archery rules? This is really just kind of a catch-all. There's lots of small changes and omissions, and that's just probably down to the fact that he only had so many pages to work with and he couldn't include everything. But if you're familiar with all of the box set versions of BECMI, you may find a rule or two where you're like, whoa, where is this? It didn't all make it in, but pretty much it's all there. Summary. There's a reason I saved this one for last.
Luckily, I have been saving an adventure.
Because I believe of all the D&D products officially licensed, this is by far the most complete. A good DM and players could run this system indefinitely.
Anyone want to play Dungeons & Dragons for the next quadrillion years?
And never have to do the same old thing. Built upon the brilliance of Mincer's design philosophy, but collected and curated with Alston's knack for brevity and clarity, the Rule Cyclopedia is that rare occasion where a product is revisited and doesn't get ruined in the process. As you saw, I have 3 copies of the Rule Cyclopedia, so this should say something about how much I like it. So does it invalidate the BECMI boxes? Not at all. As a matter of fact, when teaching my boys BECMI D&D, I use the boxes, not the Rule Cyclopedia, because the boxes are excellent teaching tools. As we went through the boxes by the master's levels, I find myself increasingly using the Rule Cyclopedia as it is an excellent reference tool. Each has their own place and time. For lapsed gamers, the Rule Cyclopedia is probably all you need if you're looking to save some money, but the BECMI boxes do still bring value to the table. Together, the Rule Cyclopedia and the box sets give a near-perfect yin and yang of what my table erroneously called basic D&D. But those are my thoughts, and I'd love to hear yours. What were your experiences with the Rule Cyclopedia, and how do you feel about the changes that were made? Have you enjoyed the Building with BECMI series, and would you like to see more BECMI content? While this is the last video of the initial series, I do plan on eventually covering Wrath of the Immortals, the Creature Crucible series, Champions of Mystara, Hollow World, and the Gazetteer series, amongst others. Kind of a Building Beyond BECMI supplement series, if you will. That will likely be mixed in with other topics covered on the channel, but the more I see interest in the subject, the more likely I will get to it sooner rather than later. This has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, God bless, and Happy New Year.